Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. Today we are Parshat Vayera. I hope you all have had a wonderful Shabbos. And once again, I would like to thank Raya and Mordechai Melt for helping us make this possible. So today's shiur is going to be a bit about anti-Semitism in the 21st century. It's something that has a lot what to do not only with today, but it has a bit to do also with the past. But there's a new movement and a new trend that's happening in the entire world where people try and boycott Israel because of what we do to the Palestinians. That's what they claim. And that's why they want to boycott us and basically call for Israel's destruction in a different way, not in a physical way, but by boycotting them, they're doing it. And here's the interesting thing. Today we'll learn what's the problem with that, why that is perhaps the worst way of being anti-Semitic, and why is it in the first place anti-Semitic. So let's start our shiur because we are in Parshat Vayera. And in Parshat Vayera, we have this parsha contains most of the makot that the Egyptians receive. And we learn about, there's 10 plagues in general. And our parsha talks about most of them. Starting from the makah of dam, and going on to the makah of tzfardeh, which is the makah of blood, of course, that all the water turned red into blood. And there's something about the makot, that the makot were here they weren't here randomly. They weren't here just in order to cause the Egyptians to just to punish them. It's true that there was a part to the makot that we actually wanted to punish the Egyptians, but it was not only about punishing them. There's something else involved also. Hashem wanted to basically teach Mitzrayim a certain lesson. Hashem wanted to explain to Paro, and it's very interesting because there's certain expressions in the Parsha that Paro says, Lo yadati et Hashem. I do not know about Hashem. Who is this person? Who is he? When Moshe Rabbeinu came to Paro, Moshe Rabbeinu basically told Paro, I'm Hashem's shaliach, and I want you to set the Jews free. Send them away, let them serve Hashem, and leave them alone. And as we say, let my people go. So by doing that, Paro, at first, Paro wasn't impressed at all. Every miracle that Moshe Rabbeinu did, he called his advisors to do the exact same miracle. And that's where he says, Lo yadati et Havaye. The name Yud Kei Vav Kei, I don't know that name. Shem Elohim, the name of Elohim, that my people can also do the same things. So there's nothing special about Hashem. And we're going to learn about this kind of klippa. We know that there's a tumah in Mitzrayim. And Am Yisrael, they were in 49 levels of tumah. Mitzrayim was the most unpure place at that time. And we're going to learn why exactly is that Mitzrayim was such a bad place. Let's talk a bit about the plague of the frogs. Right? The second plague, Moshe Rabbeinu, it wasn't actually Moshe Rabbeinu, it was Aharon that went to the Nile River, and he brought all the frogs from there into the Egyptians' houses. And we know that there was some mesirus nefesh that the frogs did. They were completely devoted to doing this plague. They basically went even into the beds of the Egyptians. They went into the tanur. What's the tanur? In other words, they were even prepared to be burnt as long as they would do Hashem's mission. Now, there's something in the Medrash very interesting. What does the Medrash tell us? The Medrash says that without the plague of the frogs, Hashem wouldn't be able to punish the Egyptians. The Medrash talks about the species and all kinds of animals. And the Medrash says, do you know why Hashem needs the frogs in the world? Hashem needs the frogs. What good do the frogs do? What exactly is special about them? We know that there's a snake, and the Medrash talks about a snake, that a snake can sometimes kill a person that doesn't serve Hashem properly, as someone that does bad things. And there's a few stories about that. But what do frogs do? They don't have the ability to kill bad people. So what good do they do? Here, the Medrash tells us, you know what good the frogs do? You know why we need the frogs in the world? Because they're the only ones that can teach the Egyptians a lesson. They're the only ones that can punish the Egyptians. And as we said, it's not just punishing them, but it is a lot to do with teaching them a lesson, teaching them about the existence of Hashem. So first of all, question A, how can we say that Hashem needs something in the world? He's not limited. If he wanted to punish the Egyptians by any other way, he could. Why are we limiting him to the frog direction? We're telling Hashem, basically, you had to have the frogs. That's why you created them, in order to punish the Egyptians. Why? Hashem has many ways. And not only why, but he actually did punish the Egyptians in many other ways. How did he punish the Egyptians? All the other 9 plagues. And after that, crossing the Red Sea and the Egyptians drowning there, these are all ways that Hashem actually did punish the Egyptians. So question A is, how can we limit Hashem, telling him you have to use the frogs in order to punish the Egyptians? Question B is, Hashem punished the Egyptians in other ways. So what is so special about the frogs? So in order to understand that, we're going to need to go back and talk about the world's history. The world's history is brought in the Tanakh, and we're going to learn about 3 levels of the way that Gentiles connect to Hashem. Accept Hashem, they don't accept Hashem, they disagree with him. So one of the most famous Gentile prophets was Bil'am Harasha. And Bil'am, basically, his story begins with, we'll see it in the upcoming Parshiot, where we learn about the king of Moab willing to curse Am Yisrael. He wanted to curse us. That's why he called Bil'am, who was a prophet, in order for him to curse us, Am Yisrael. And we all know the happy ending. First of all, we know that he wanted to go. He wanted to go and curse Am Yisrael, but he said one very interesting sentence. Lo uchal la'avor et pi Hashem. I will not be able to do something against Hashem's will. Wow. That was Bil'am Harasha. So he wanted to curse the Jewish people, but he knew that Hashem is in charge of everything at the end of the day, and he has to have Hashem's permission. Hashem did not allow Bil'am to actually curse the Jewish people. And Bil'am, we have this interesting story that he was going there with his donkey, and the donkey spoke to him. The bottom line is that Bil'am was not successful, but his connection to Hashem was a connection that he accepted Hashem. He knew that Hashem is, as Chazal say, Eloka de Elokaya. He is God of gods, which means, in the way that Hasidus explains it, is that Hashem, in Bilam's belief, Hashem is the God, and he created everything, but he gave all kinds of permissions. He has all kinds of administrators and all kinds of people not people, but all kinds of ways that you can connect to him, and it doesn't have to be directly to him. You could connect to other gods. That's what Bil'am Harasha's opinion was, and for a Gentile to believe so, that's not denying Hashem's existence. It's a legitimate way to believe. We as Jews are not allowed to believe that. But for anyone else that wants to believe that Hashem is Elokad Elokaya, God of gods, that's acceptable. So that is the first person that we see in history that connects to Hashem, relates to him in some way or another, and he's pretty good, Bilam. At the end of the day, he was killed by a sword, actually, and that was the ironic part, that he came to curse Am Yisrael with tefillah, with prayer. He was not successful, and when Am Yisrael punished him, came back to him, it was with a sword, which was usually Esav's tool in order to succeed in his ways. So that's an interesting thing about Bilam HaRasha. We have someone else very interesting, Sancherib. Sancherib was the king of Ashur, and during the first temple, during Beis HaMikdash HaRishon, he came and he surrounded Jerusalem. He wanted to conquer Jerusalem. He wanted to destroy Beis HaMikdash, and he came with an enormous, enormous army. And the Chazal tell us that every single day he used to go out there and curse Hashem. He did not accept Hashem's existence. He said, who is Hashem? I don't accept him at all. He doesn't exist. And he cursed him. That was Sancherib, and a very interesting story that what happened at the end was that Hashem, while they were surrounding Jerusalem, and while they basically were waiting to conquer the city, Hashem destroyed their entire army at one night, and Sancherib ended up running away. He did, however, exile the 10 tribes. That's Sancherib. It could be it's a different king, but what he did was he wanted to basically destroy Beis HaMikdash. He was not successful, and his way of connecting to Hashem was disagreeing and just not accepting Hashem's existence. He cursed Hashem, and he was always against anything that had to do with him. It says about Sancherib that Mibnei banav shel Sancherib lamdu Torah b'Bnei Brak. The children of Sancherib learned Torah in Bnei Brak. Out of his descendants, there were Geirim. There were, if I'm not mistaken, it's Rabbi Meir, Shmai Vavtalion. There's a few big Tanaim that actually converted and became Jews, and they were the descendants of Sancherib. That's the second way of connecting to Hashem that we see. So there's the first way was accepting Hashem and knowing, trying your luck, asking Hashem, can I curse the chosen people? And Hashem said no, but he accepted Hashem. The second way is completely denying Hashem's existence, and not only denying it, but actually cursing Hashem. Here's the third person, Parai, the main character in our Parsha. Parai had something very interesting. He did not curse Hashem. He did not accept Hashem. He ignored Hashem. He said, Lo yadati et Hashem. There was something very interesting about this klipa, about this tumah, the impurity of Parai, that wasn't like the rest of the people that we spoke about. Parai did not accept Hashem, that's for sure, because if he would accept Hashem, he would not enslave the Jewish people. He would let them go without a question. So he did not accept Hashem, but he did not go and curse Hashem. That's something interesting. He did not deny Hashem's existence. He said, Li ye'ori v'ani asitini. We have here a picture of the Nile River. What is so unique about the Nile River? So in Egypt, there's no rain. We are praying here, Bezrat Hashem, for a bit of rain. But in Egypt, they don't even have the option to pray because there's just no rain. It's a huge desert. At least most of Egypt is in that way. But the Egyptians have a big advantage, and that's the Nile River. The Nile River provides them with water to drink and to make sure that all their fields have enough water in order to grow whatever they need. If it's wheat, if it's to water the trees. Basically, the Egyptians rely on the Nile River. How convenient. Think about it. In those days, all the nations around Egypt need to pray to Hashem once in a while for rain, because we know that rain is one of the things that's not really in our hands, and we can see it all around. In places, sometimes there's too much rain, and that becomes into a typhoon storm. In other places, there's not enough rain. Rain is something that's in Hashem's hands. But Paro said, you know what? I don't even need to bother about Hashem. I don't even need to think about him. I don't even need to deny his existence. He may exist in his kingdom. I have my kingdom. I have the Nile River that provides everything for me. And that's what I need. That's all. That was the klipa, the impurity of Paro. Paro he wasn't against Hashem. He ignored Hashem. And ignoring Hashem in a certain way is the worst, and we're going to learn about it soon. But once again, Paro, he basically was an idol, as Chazal tell us that Paro considered himself an idol, because again, he didn't need to turn to anyone else and ask for help. He had whatever he needed. He had the Nile River, and in those days, that basically saved you. By the way, even today, there's a whole fight between Ethiopia and Egypt about the Nile River. I don't know the exact story behind it, but the Egyptians basically are very scared that the Ethiopians will take part of the Nile River. I don't know the whole politic about that, but it's also something that applies even in our days. Again, this is because of the importance that water has in our lives. And if you can have it without any prayer to Hashem, so that's all what Paro needed. And that's what basically enabled him to consider himself as a god. And that's why he said, Lo yadati et Hashem. I don't know him. He may exist, he may not exist. I don't need him in my life. He was complete ignorant to Hashem. So who is the worst? Let's talk about it. Who's the worst? Well, we have Bilam HaRasha. Bilam HaRasha, he was a Rasha. He was evil because he wanted to curse the Jewish people. But Bilam accepted Hashem. He knew that he could not, lo uchal la'avor et pi Hashem. I cannot disagree with what Hashem wants. That is Bilam. Then we have Sancheriv. And probably we all would say that Sancheriv is the worst person because Sancheriv cursed Hashem. Sancheriv wanted to go and destroy the temple, destroy Jerusalem. So Sancheriv, who was fully against Hashem, he's the worst. And then we have Paro, who ignored Hashem. So once again, if we look straight out and we want to say who's the worst, Sancheriv is the worst. And that's true, that Sancheriv is the worst. But here's a different perspective to Tum'ah and to Klipa. Someone that's ignorant, someone that does not care, means that it doesn't even bother him. Sancheriv, by cursing Hashem, he basically acknowledged Hashem's existence. And it bothered him, it disturbed him. He wasn't happy with it. That's why he was so upset at Hashem and he cursed him. That's why, in a certain way, Sancheriv did acknowledge Hashem and accept him. He just did it in the wrong way. He did it in the opposite direction, in a negative way. Instead of being positive like Bilam and knowing that Hashem's Elokad Elokaya, he basically tried to deny him, but because he cursed him, that shows that he truly believes in him. Otherwise, why would you curse him? If he doesn't exist, if you don't accept him, then what's the point of talking about him? That's about Sancheriv. Paro, however, he was the true evil. He was the true bad because he did not accept Hashem at all. He ignored Hashem. And that is the worst thing to do. The worst thing to do is to ignore something. I would like to share with you an experience that I personally had. From time to time, we do Mivtzat Tefillin. Mivtzat Tefillin is basically a mivtza, one out of the 12 mivtzaim of the Rebbe that the Rebbe came up with. This started right before the 6-day war. The Rebbe wanted as much as possible to put on tefillin on other people, and you can see perhaps from time to time a stand that some Chabad Hasidim, Lubavitcher Hasidim have, if it's in shopping malls, if it's in centers, or if it's just by the public transport. There's the public station, the main station, that there's always a place to put on tefillin. And there are 3 types of people that can pass by. This person A says, thank you very much, I would like to put on tefillin. Amazing, here you can put on tefillin, thank you very much. There's a person that would start telling you, well, why didn't you serve in the army? Well, why don't you pay your taxes? And why don't, all kinds of lies and nonsense. And he starts basically cursing you using Sancheriv style. That's person B. Then there's person C that ignores you. He does not listen. He does not hear you. He does not reply anything. Who gives you the worst feeling? So out of a personal experience, the worst feeling is when someone totally ignores you, because it shows that he doesn't care. He doesn't care, not about the tefillin, not about you. He wouldn't even have the courtesy just to say, well, no, thanks, I don't want to. That is the person it's the hardest with him. Of course, they're all Jews, so they are all good. But again, for the feeling that the person gets is that it's a very bad feeling once someone does not answer you at all. So those are the 3 things. And before we end, I would like to share with you another story about a debate between Rabbi Lau and one of the politicians in Israel. I'm talking about a politician that passed away probably 20 years ago, something like that, around about 15 years ago. That politician was a Holocaust survivor, and so was Rabbi Lau. May Hashem bless him and give him arichus yamim. So both of these people, Rabbi Lau on the one hand, and that person that was a Holocaust survivor on the other hand, they spoke on television. They had a whole night. It was actually a gift for the Holocaust survivor's birthday. They asked him, what can we give you as a gift? Well, he said, I would like to debate Rabbi Lau. And that person was going on television talking about where was Hashem during the Holocaust. I'm not coming to answer that question because there is no answer to that question. Just one point, and that's the point that Rabbi Lau told him. He said, if you have these complaints against Hashem, where was he in the Holocaust? It means that you truly believe in him. You truly know that he exists. And therefore you're asking the question, well, why didn't he help us during the Holocaust? Where was he in the Holocaust? That idea is the idea of Sancheriv. If you are against it, it means you believe in it. If you are against it, it means it bothers you. You accept it. You just don't accept it in the right way. And yes, there aren't answers to everything in the world. There's no answer to the question, where was Hashem during the Holocaust? And that is basically the idea behind these 3 levels of Klippa and Tumah in the world. Bilam, he's fine, he's good to go. Sancheriv, he's okay. He acknowledges Hashem and it bothers him, and that's why he curses Hashem. So he chose to express it in the wrong way, and he was punished for that. And then we have Paro. Paro was the worst because Paro didn't even acknowledge Hashem at no level. He said, well, what you can do, my people can do as well. That's nothing. There's no kunz about it. I never needed to pray to Hashem. I have the Nile in front of me. I have as much water as I need. Let's go back to the questions that we asked at the beginning. We asked a few questions. First of all, why do we need the frogs? How can we tell Hashem you have to use the frogs in order to punish the Egyptians? That was the main question. Hashem has many other ways, and B, Hashem used other ways. What was so special about the frogs? So we have three types of animals, and please forgive me that I did not put the pictures of the three kinds. The first kind of animal is a positive, a good animal, and it's a positive animal. Let's say a sheep or something like that. They are good. They are good animals, good species. They provide us with food, and in a certain way, they are good. Not in a certain way, they are pure good. Then there are bad animals. Bad animals is snakes, for example, that they don't help us really, no, not too much. But the good and the bad both serve Hashem in two separate directions. The good serves Hashem in his direction. For example, using the cow's skin for tefillin. That's a positive thing. It's very good. Another example is with the bad species like snakes, for example. Snakes are bad, but they serve Hashem also because they can kill bad people. If Hashem wants to punish a bad person, great. He could use the snake. Then we have a third kind of an animal, and this is the frog. It's not good and not bad. It's ignorant. That is the frog, and maybe there are a few other species that have the same nature. They aren't necessarily good. We don't really use them. And on the other hand, they're not bad. So why does Hashem need those specific animals? The truth is, that's the perfect medicine to cure Paro. Paro was the exact same type. He was ignorant as well. Paro was the person that said, well, I'm not for Hashem and I'm not against him. I just don't need him. He's not part of my life. For that, we need specifically the frog to show Paro that even the frog that looks like it's not a bad animal or a good animal, it's an ignorant animal. Let's call it that way. Nevertheless, Hashem created it. And that's also part of Hashem's creation. That teaches us that we can't be ignorant no matter what. And I would like to end with the lesson to us, and we can go back to the anti-Semitism in the 21st century. It's about being ignorant. We cannot be ignorant. We cannot. We can't have the privilege of not picking a side. And that's the problem where today people are slightly ignorant about the anti-Semitism that's going on, because anti-Semitism has a few faces. One of the faces is this face that we see in front of us, boycotting Israel. And I'm not against Jews. He finds a way to be basically a frog. And that's something that the frog teaches us, is that you can't be ignorant. And one other thing is about the Polish Holocaust, because there's basically a very interesting campaign that took place I think it's 2 years ago or something like that. The Poles were all against the fact that we're calling it a Polish Holocaust. No one calls it a Polish Holocaust. Believe me, the Poles didn't have the ability to do what the Nazi יימח שמם did. No one really feels that it's a Polish Holocaust. But nevertheless, the Poles are very much responsible. Why? Because of their ignorance. That's the worst. Sometimes you've got to pick a side. Because even if you pick the wrong side, there's a way that we could teach you. We could fight back. We could tell you that that's not, you're wrong. But if you don't pick a side, if you are ignorant, that's the worst. Because that leads to a situation where people can do as they want and no one cares about it. You have to pick a side. That's a bit about our Parsha and about frogs, who are indeed one of the creatures of Hashem in the world. So thank you again very much for attending this shiur, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all. Bezrat Hashem. next week, 9:30, here at Chabad of Rechavia. Thank you.